I love Israel. I want to see Israel survive and not be overtaken by the madmen of this world. President Obama does not love Israel. His whole agenda is to control Israel, and in this way he can be friends with all of Israel's enemies. He doesn't want Bibi Netanyahu to win this upcoming election.
Strong words and a rather candid assessment from American actor Jon Voight as Israeli voters are at the polls today, engaged in the process that will result in them picking their next prime minister. Nearly 6 million people expected to vote in these Israeli elections. A very tight race according to the polling, and we should note that no less than 11, count them, 11 parties are vying for power. Joining us with more on this story, Danny Ayalon, the former Israeli ambassador to the United States and former deputy foreign minister of Israel. Also staying with us, my old congressional colleague, Michael Patrick Flanagan, who is also the president of Flanagan Consulting. Gentlemen, we very much appreciate your time. And Danny, tell me what you think the mood is on the ground there. Is it national security or the economy that moves voters today in Israel?
Well, I'll tell you, JD, what Herzog did, the head of the opposition from Labour Party, was a very smart move. He said that there was no daylight between him and Mr. Netanyahu on Iran and security issues. So that deflected the security and put all the emphasis on the economy. And when it comes to the economy, Netanyahu is vulnerable because of the cost of living and housing problems. So we'll have to wait and see. What I hear from Israel right now is that the turnout is very high, which is also works for the left of center parties, because usually when the turnout is low, below 60, that works for the right.
Danny, in the election on the ground there in Israel, are you seeing a different character of election? I've asked all the guests this morning because I'm fascinated by the influence of the Chicago guys as they are working throughout Israel to influence this election.
Yes, I would say that not much was publicized or reported in Israel about it. But indeed, if there was any kind of foreign interference, even if it's from our best friend, that would not reflect very well. In fact, it could just have a backlash. And Israelis, like any other democratic people, do not like any foreign interference when it comes to their own political decisions.
Well, mindful of that, Danny, as you mentioned that incredible political term that Michael and I both know about, backlash, I'm wondering post-election, when the different sides are trying to build a coalition, will that backlash perhaps help Mr. Netanyahu hang on to the prime ministership and the subsequent wheeling and dealing to build a coalition?
Absolutely, JD. And I still think it's Bibi Netanyahu's to lose, because you know, in our system, which is a proportional system, and you have to build a coalition, so it's not the largest party who becomes the prime minister, but it's the one who can have the largest coalition. And here, Mr. Netanyahu still has a marked edge over his opposition. Now, it could be, the outcome could be of a national unity government, whereby Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Herzog will form a national unity. Now, a national unity, the one question is, will they have to rotate for the prime minister position? And that will depend on the exact result. If there is a substantial lead of Herzog over Netanyahu, I see rotation. If not, then I think Netanyahu will be the prime minister, and I could see Mr. Herzog as becoming the next deputy prime minister and perhaps the minister of foreign relations.
Well, that's a very interesting way to do things, markedly different from what we do here in the United States, and despite the efforts of Michael Flanagan's old foes in Cook County, Illinois, markedly different from Chicago. Gentlemen, to you both our thanks, and America's Forum will continue after this.